Hey guys, welcome to the Junto Podcast. Excited to be with you today and joined by my lovely bride. And if you've never joined us here on the Junto Podcast, we are a podcast about unity, community, with a host or a wide variety of topics, typically framed around the perspective of faith. And we know it's Christmas time. We had an amazing time last week cooking and doing things with the kids.
Fun.
Yeah. But lots going on. We thought we would talk about this whole thing. I won't say I necessarily have a heavy heart, but certainly there is kind of, I guess, a heaviness, and that's what happened with Twitch. Now, I know that people probably understand what's going on with Twitch, but before we get into this, how are you? And you excited to be here today?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm excited. Excited that we get to continue what we're doing, but sometimes, like you said, the subject matter that we talk about, it's real life stuff. So sometimes it weighs heavy on us, and we just feel like there's others out there who probably feel the same way and can relate, and so just want to give that outlet. As always, just to show folks that, hey, we feel the same way and let's talk about it,
That's right. And a lot of our discussions that we have here on the Junto Podcast really they always come back to mental health. I said that in one of the previous episodes, and that's because we believe, and not only that we believe, but we know that the world around us is hurting. We know that people have problems of all kinds. We have problems and issues. We're not immune to anything that's going on in the world, and certainly we have to work our things out just like everybody else. But this podcast really, the premise behind it, junto, which is taken from the Spanish word junto, which is pronounced with the H, just means together. And we really do believe here at the Junto Podcast that life is better when we do it together. And with that, we thought, just with everything that happened with Twitch, and that we would just take the next few minutes to talk about mental health. Certainly, if you're someone that's dealing with mental health, seek help, right? Don't be afraid to ask for help. Now, we thought before we got too deep into this that, I don't know if you've seen these videos, but first of all, I'll say, I wasn't like this big Twitch follower. I knew who he was. I didn't really watch the Ellen Show, and I didn't know how he got his start until I read a little bit of his history. I think he got a start on So You Think He Can Dance years ago, and then his career just kind of exploded from there. But what really struck me, and I think why I wanted to talk about this conversation and lead it into a conversation about mental health and possibly suicide, is that if you go to his TikTok or if you go to his social media and you see just 2 days before what he was doing, it blows my mind to think that here's a guy that you would, for all intents and purposes, not look at and say, well, this is somebody who is suicidal. And let's watch this. I know it's all over the internet. You've probably seen it by now, but if you haven't, we're going to watch this, and let's just take a look at it.
Okay.
2 days.
Wow. So on the outside, no signs, no
2 days.
No red flags, no depression. Look, to me, I'm no clinical counselor or anything, but yeah.
Yeah, that was 2 days before he passed.
Goodness.
This is another one. This was just from October. Him and his wife, obviously, he was a dancer. His wife's a dancer. Beautiful family, looks like from what we can see.
Wow.
That they had it all, man.
Had 2 kids.
So this was on 12/10. I think he died, on the 13th? And they just celebrated an anniversary.
So it seemed like they were on the same page, is what it looks like from the outside to me, that, they planned these videos and did them together and did a good job and seemed legit, real,
Absolutely.
from the outside.
And I guess that's why I believe conversations like these are so important. I'm doing this mental health coaching through, it's a certification. It's through Light University, but all the curriculum is endorsed through the American Association of Christian Counselors. And they talk about, because there is a difference. There's a difference between serious mental illness and obviously things like depression, anxiety. But how on the outside do you know? Look at that.
Yeah, right.
Look at that. That was 2 days before he
Right.
passed, and
Yeah.
they're dancing. He's got a big smile on his face. And
So to friends on, Instagram friends, social media friends, everything looks fine. Maybe some of his closer friends and family knew
yeah.
that something was going on. Maybe they didn't,
Yeah. And it's crazy to think about. And here's an interesting thought, too, because this is something I was thinking about. Obviously, we do this podcast, and my goal, maybe not yours, I know you're just humoring me because I drag you into this stuff, but
I like it too. Okay.
I know you do. But obviously, one of my goals would be for this thing to grow, and for it to be a useful resource. But then I think there's a selfish part of me too that would just like to accumulate. Like, we all want followers, right? We all want followers because in some ways that means status. But when I was looking at these videos and I was looking on his TikTok, dude had 5 million followers on TikTok. I don't know his Instagram or his Facebook, but 5 million followers. And a light bulb went off in my head. And I know this, but it was just a confirmation or a reaffirmation for me is, good gosh, none of those things guarantee happiness. You're looking for followers, you're looking for that golden moment, you want to go viral, you want all of this stuff. And I can't help but think that dude had all of that, yet still something was missing. Something was missing in his life.
Right.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. I mean, and you would think not only with the followers and the fame, and he was on the Ellen show and seemingly successful life,
100%.
but also his family. He was married,
Beautiful
children, beautiful wife. Seemed like they had a good relationship. At least, I don't know a whole lot of the history and all that, but what I can see from the outside looking in, it looks like he had it all.
Well,
But obviously something, and like you said, mental illness, there are clinically mental illness situations where people need medication, they need therapy. So yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, and you said something that was good because you said from the outside looking in. Isn't that what we have? Isn't that all we get from people most of the time? I mean, unless
the majority of people in our life,
besides
our circle,
right?
That's it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We get the outside, we get the surface, I guess,
All
the
the good
stuff.
stuff.
How you doing?
Yeah.
Life is good, and from the outside, it
Right.
looks good. But
Right.
honestly, man, people are freaking hurting, dude. Going back to some of the coursework, and I know I mentioned that I'm doing this mental health certification right now through Light University, but it says in terms of serious mental health issues that only 11% of those people ever even ask for help.
Right. Or know where to even start to get help.
Right. 11%. 11%. You think about
crazy.
the amount of people that have mental health issues, and then only 11%, serious mental health, only 11% ask for those. And then here's one for you pastors, rabbis, priests, and I say that because that's how it's worded in here, but typically the first place people go, it's not a counselor, it's not a psychologist, it's
Right.
not a doctor. Typically, the first place people go is to their pastoral leadership, a religious
affiliation,
and the
house of
second,
worship.
the second place people go is to their friends, their family, and it talks about in this coursework here, and I'm giving all the credit to them, but it talks about being a gatekeeper, and essentially what a gatekeeper is just somebody who will listen, who has a little bit of training. And I encourage you, man, if you love people or if this interests you at all, consider getting some learning on this. Sometimes just being with someone,
Right.
They call it the just being present is enough.
Seems like
but
there aren't enough counselors to go around.
There aren't.
There are. So I think that everybody we all deal with our own mental struggles.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got a brain, you got some mental struggles.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It doesn't
100.
matter the age, your status in life, how much money you make.
That's it.
How many people love you. You know,
Yeah.
And it seems like there's a shortage of those
Gatekeepers, yes.
people who are aware and that see a need and say, okay, this person needs some help. I may not have all the answers, but I can, lend an ear, point them to some resources,
Yeah.
find out someone who can help them.
Right.
And
that's huge, because that's part of what being a gatekeeper is. It's not necessarily being able to offer them the help, but it's knowing where to send them, where to refer them, where can I send this person, and it's just huge. And it just really brings to mind, and it really wakes me up in my own mind, even though, it's one thing because we can know things, but we need to be reminded. And this whole thing with Twitch, it really just got me. And like I said, it's not that I'm a huge follower. I really don't follow him, but it's when I saw that video of him 2 days before he passed. And I don't know if that was filmed 2 days, but it was posted 2 days before he passed. It could have been filmed earlier on, but I say that just to say that, man, we really, really don't know what's going on in the lives of some of these people. And we want to be an encouragement to you. We want this podcast to be an encouragement. So if you're somebody, we all deal in our own way with mental health to some degree, but seriously, if you're suicidal or if you're thinking about those things, please seek help. We love you. You're loved. Somebody loves you, right? Like you're needed. You have a purpose. You need to be reminded that God is with us, that we're not alone. And I know during this time of year, especially, people deal with SAD, seasonal affective disorder, and just all of these things. All of these things.
Yeah. Yeah. This season, it kind of gets amped up, and maybe most or more of the world is aware of that because of, it's like, okay, it's Christmas. A lot of people are happy. A lot of people are more sad than ever. But this is a ongoing, everyday. It's a struggle for folks at different degrees. I think of even Robin Williams.
Oh,
everybody remembers Robin Williams. What you were going to say?
Stop! Are you kidding me? I was just going to bring up Robin. Oh my!
But
God.
He made everyone else laugh. He brought everyone else's spirits up. Yet, obviously, there was something going on that maybe his circle knew about, maybe they didn't, but from the outside, from all of us and what we saw with his movies and
everything,
all the things, that he was just the funniest, happiest. We thought he was the happiest guy, surely because he's making us happy.
Yeah.
And I think that happens a lot as well. People who are the most depressed, people who maybe they know that's missing in them, and so maybe they kind of project that for others. Like they're trying to okay, I'm missing this in my life.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and try and give that to someone else. But ultimately, he took his own life, and there's countless others.
Yeah. And I was
talk about.
I was just going to ask you a minute ago too. Let's see how many we could name. Just off, and it's not just comedian musicians, but you said something, and this brought up a story, and I'm going to tell it, and I don't know. I've never really researched it. I'm telling it from me hearing someone else tell this story. So I hope I get it right. But apparently, and I don't know, I guess it was early 1900s, maybe late 1800s, there was an entertainer, I think he was a clown named Devereaux. And one time he was coming to town, and he went and I guess was dealing, because you see this a lot with entertainers, like when they're on the stage and, man, they're in the moment. They're there,
it's
but
hype.
In real life, yeah. And I'll be honest, this is something I've even dealt with in a pastoral world.
Yeah,
because
get these big highs.
Oh, it's big highs, and then there's really low lows. But it goes on to say that this story that Devereaux was visiting a town, and he was dealing, I guess, feeling depressed, and he went in to see a psychologist or a psychiatrist and started telling him his problems, and the psychologist was just listening, and the psychologist said, well, there is a great act in town tonight. There's this clown, and he's a big entertainer, and I really recommend that you go see him. His name is Devereaux. And he stopped and looked at the psychologist and said, I am Devereaux.
That's me. Wow.
And that really, man, that really hit me because it's like, oh my God.
Right.
And can you imagine that psychologist being speechless or
And then the hopelessness of this clown, like, okay,
like,
okay, what is
right.
that? That's your advice. That's where my hope will come from.
wow.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, that's huge. I think
pretty
it
eye-opening.
was Pastor Ray McCullum, who is our lead pastor's one of his mentors, and years ago. And that story has stuck with me because I can feel that, and you see this a lot in the entertainment industry. I'm thinking about Lane Staley from Alice in Chains. I'm thinking about, Janis Joplin, Jim Morrison, all these
Anthony
people.
Bourdain.
Yes, and you know what? I honestly believe in my heart. I believe that when you experience such a high, or when you have the capacity to take the world by the hand or by something else.
You have the world's attention.
Well, and when you can do anything you want, when money is not an object, when you can
Right.
fly here and you can jet set there and you've done all those things. And I really believe people get to a point where it's like, wow, like I've
Just
done
an
it all.
emptiness.
And I'm still
an
hopeless.
emptiness.
Yeah.
Right. Everything at their fingertips, and yet that void that just going all around it, all
Yeah.
these material, physical things, and going all around
Man.
the world.
Yeah.
But, all around what they need.
And, I can see that because I see it just in the level of comfort we have. Not that I think there are different stages. Obviously, we're not anywhere, to write home about. But even being comfortable like we are, people get spoiled. They're fickle. It's like, I don't know. It's just crazy. So imagine being able to have everything at your fingertips and then still not being satisfied.
Yeah, I think has a lot to do with it. And, and then like we said before, there are those ones that are just, there's an imbalance. There are some chemical situations, hormonal, all those words that I know nothing about, stuff that's going on, situational people in situations where they feel like there's no freedom, there's no hope, tons of things. There's so many. We can't just say, oh, this is the one thing that causes depression, or this is the one thing that causes someone to question or attempt suicide or have those thoughts of, maybe that's the only way out for me type thoughts. So
yeah, and you're exactly right. And that's why we always are careful to distinguish that, there are serious mental health issues that require medical attention. But for the most part, I think everybody to some degree experiences
all of us.
Those regular mental health things.
Right.
And then we don't know the people's backgrounds, right? Like we don't know what people are coming from. This is just some interesting statistics here. And 40%, and this is, it's not necessarily, it is relevant, but when you think about people's backgrounds, what people are coming from, even if they do experience fame, we don't know what their life was like, but 40% of kids will live in a house without their biological father. 40, that's almost half of all kids. Almost half of all kids. 1 in 3 women will be sexually abused by someone that was supposed to love them. 1 in 3. Good Lord.
That's a deep level of hurt.
1 in 5 people will experience clinical depression at some point in their life. Now, all of these stats are verified through the American Association of Christian Counselors. So these are legit stats. 1 in 5 people will experience clinical depression at some point in their lives. 1 in 5. So this is why you may think, well, why do they always bring it back to mental health? Well, we can't stress this enough that people are hurting. And if we can even reach one person, if we can be an encouragement to even just one person, then man, what we do here is absolutely worth it. Do you have some stats for us? You had some other stuff too.
Yes, mine dealt with suicide, so I'll get to that in just a second. But I did want to piggyback off what you said, and just as kind of a reminder that we need those gatekeepers, those people who are willing to listen and slow down from their busy lives, especially right now at Christmas. Everybody's busy. pay attention to your folks. People,
Yeah, you just don't
people are
know.
hurting,
You
and
just
if you
don't know.
don't take the time, you are going to miss it. So that for that group of people, but then the depressed group of people, those who need help and are having terrible thoughts and thoughts of hopelessness and needing some encouragement and really a touch,
Right.
and needing someone, find that someone for
Yes.
those people. Don't give up, because they are out there. They just have to be found. I can't remember what movie we were watching. Gosh, I wish I remember what it was called. But in the movie, I guess the mother, I think of this character, said, when you're in a bad situation and you need help, look for the helpers. That they're the ones who will help you. So someone who's serving, someone who's doing something.
Wow.
Pastors, I mean, this is what you're here for. You know what I'm saying? Find someone who's affiliate, who goes to church with you. They can point you to
prayer
a pastor,
warrior.
a prayer warrior.
Just-
Someone. There is someone, but making sure to take those steps and not just sit in your own suffering, because that's not why we're here.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, sit in your suffering, because in this curriculum too, and these are based, a lot of this is common sense, but it talks about isolation.
Oh, yeah.
And isolation, man,
That's a big.
do not be isolated. If you have to make yourself get out of that house, find a group, get in church.
Even go to a dang store and be around some life.
Right.
Be around life.
Yep.
Just if you don't have to get anything at the store. I don't care.
Walk around.
Go walk
some-
around.
Yes.
Even getting outside of your house
Yes.
is,
Yeah.
just get some air, get some fresh
Yes,
air.
that's it.
This article, it's an online article. I'm gonna sit up a little bit. The American Journal of Psychiatry. So it comes from I think it's the American Psychiatry Association. So this is their journal that
Okay.
they put out publications. And this is actually a study from 2004. So it's a little bit older, but I think even more now, I think it would be relative.
Right.
Just with everything since COVID. And we've talked about that in our past podcasts, that everyone's mental health has been affected in some way by the pandemic.
For sure.
No matter your age. But they decided to do a study on religious affiliation and suicide attempt, and kind of compare those.
That's interesting.
Those that are affiliated with some type of religion and those who are not, that are just secular, not attending. And so their method was they took depressed inpatients.
Mm-hmm.
So these were people who were already clinically depressed.
Had some, clinically depressed.
Right.
Wow.
And those who belonged to a specific religion and those who did not. But the results, it says the religiously unaffiliated subjects had significantly more lifetime suicide attempts.
That's it.
And more first-degree relatives who committed suicide than subjects who endorsed a religious affiliation. It doesn't say which, it doesn't matter. It said unaffiliated subjects were younger, less often married, less often had children, and less often had contact with family members.
Yeah.
So the isolation.
That's it.
Complete isolation was a big factor. So in conclusion, religious affiliation is associated with less suicidal behavior in depressed patients.
Wow.
So.
That's interesting, because I had some similar, let me see if I can find it here. Yeah, that's really good stuff. And I was reading, I don't know what I was in, but it was similar to that. And I don't know, it may have been Cambridge or something, but essentially that's the same thing it said. And these are studies. There are multiple studies. It's not saying that suicide doesn't happen amongst believers. It does happen amongst believers, but y'all, the studies are there, and it shows that it is way less significant or way less prevalent amongst, in the particular study I read, broke it down, it was Christians, but it was Catholic,
Protestant, yeah.
and then contemporary.
Right. Yeah,
and contemporary Christianity had the lowest. I think the suicide rate was less than 6% versus, it could be as high as 30% for the unchurched or secular world. So,
well, think about what that means. I mean, okay, so a religious affiliation, that means that you're putting your hope in something bigger than yourself.
That's it.
That you're not in control of your complete situation. You're having fellowship with other people. There's life around you. There are others who maybe can hold you accountable or ask how you are.
Yeah.
You talk.
Give you some love.
Lend an ear. Just all the things that come along with not just attending church, but being as far as a religious mindset and having hope in something other than, well, this is I'm all I've got, know. And when you think about that, for me, to me, that's hopeless. That if you're all you've got,
man, if you're your own savior, if I was all
that I have, Lord, I'm in trouble.
Left.
I'm just, my mind can't go there because
I know.
Pray for those who are hopeless.
So, very, very interesting stuff, very prevalent in our society. And we always say that this podcast is framed around a perspective of faith. And I'm gonna tell you, man, God, it works. It really is a true relationship. It's not saying that there are not serious mental health issues that even Christians will encounter, but when we're talking about relationship and walking in relationship with God, man, it's a very real thing. And we know prayer works despite what people think. And you think, tragedies happen and they say we're praying for it. Well, we need to do more than prayer. Well, sometimes the only thing you can do is pray. And a lot of crises happen in that very moment. There's not a whole lot you can do in some cases but pray. So obviously there's actions that we can take, but we know that prayer works. And I want to leave you as we bring this conversation to a close. If you've liked anything you've heard, we'd love for you to subscribe, be part of the Junto podcast community. That would be amazing. We appreciate those who do support us.
Probably these people who listen do know how to subscribe, right? Because I was one of those that probably you told me to subscribe and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm going to do that. But give them, do some of them need steps, like how to do that? Or am I just one of those?
Hit the subscribe button.
Complete.
There's a button down there.
But you got to find that subscribe button.
You just hit it. Well, if you watch this video, there will be an arrow pointing down, and it'll say subscribe. How's that sound? I'm one of those
that needs specific instructions on how to.
If that's you, we'll do a podcast on how to subscribe. No, I'm kidding. But and she's right. So we'd certainly appreciate it. There's a button located below the video on YouTube that'll say subscribe, and we appreciate it. And you can always visit us at juntopodcast.com. That's JUNTO podcast.com. But I wanted to leave you with a scripture of encouragement, because we know the world is hurting, as we discussed.
Right.
Money, followers, fame, none of that is going to fill you. We see it. You mentioned Robin Williams. I mentioned singers. Twitch that just posted that happy video of an amazing dance, super talented and good looking, had it all, family.
And we do that sometimes too. We may be having the worst day of our life and we post the best pictures that we have.
Isn't that wild?
And then nobody knows that we're here secretly having a terrible day and need just a word of encouragement or, hey, how are you doing?
Yeah.
We have some amazing friends who really, they'll reach out, we'll get a text and like, hey, how's your day going?
Yeah.
How are you?
It does help. I mean, it's very helpful. But Matthew 11:28, reading from the New Living Translation or the NLT, it says, "Then Jesus said, 'Come to me, all of you who are weary and carry heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you. Let me teach you, because I am humble and gentle at heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy to bear, and the burden I give you is light.'" And if you are listening and you're not a believer, or maybe you're a believer but you're really struggling, let that verse speak to you and be able to take your problems to God. Any closing thoughts or final thoughts from you besides subscribing?
Yeah, make sure you subscribe for those of you who are like me. technologically. What do you say? The jinx. You say I'm a jinx or cursed. I don't know.
Her
Whatever
technology do not mix, guys. I'm just saying.
I try. Maybe I try too hard.
I think I said cursed. Maybe it was.
Yeah, I think you said I was cursed.
Oh, Lord.
Technologically cursed. But just the reminder of those, the ones who are having those, just seek help. Find someone. Reach out to us. Let us point you to the right direction. At least, we can encourage you and lift you up and pray for you. We'll do that, I promise. And then maybe give you some resources that can help you further, deeper in your journey.
Exactly. So. Good stuff. Hope you got something out of this. We really appreciate you guys listening, watching, however you're tuning in. And you can join us next time on the Junto Podcast. Thanks for listening, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Be blessed.